Hey everybody, my name is Karina Dabney and welcome back to my channel, Simply Santalia. Today we are discussing all things egg freezing, specifically freeze the clock. So I would like to start by saying I have the questions. We have a lot of questions. I'm going to give a brief introduction about my experience, but I know on the flyer I said that Dr. Jelani will be joining us. Well, that's not going to be happening. And I don't want to put this project on pause anymore. Dr. Jelani is a great physician, a great doctor, but for this specific project, I've been trying to get a date for a long time now. And when we had a date, I was on Zoom for 3 hours, which she never showed up, and I have yet to hear back from her. So I just wanted to be very transparent with you all because I am a person of my word. And I do understand that life gets busy, things come up, but as always, communication is key. This is no, this is no nick at Dr. Jelani's profession or what she does. I do believe she's a great doctor, but she just hasn't been a person of her word in this instance. So without further ado, I promised you all a Q&A, and the Q&A is what you all will get. I am not a physician. I Anything that you take from this video, please, please go back it up with your physician or your fertility doctor, or better yet, both. Have them confirm whether what I am saying is right or wrong. Do not take what I say as medical advice because I am not a physician in any way or form. I am not in the medical field. So let's get started. Again, I'm Karina and I'm 27. And I froze my eggs at 27. Yes. So why did I freeze my eggs at 27? I used to think egg freezing was probably for people who was older, didn't have kids at the time that they wanted to, until I started researching. And I started researching when I was watching TV and I heard about this young person thinking about maybe freezing their eggs. And so I was like, well, let me look into this. And I looked into it, and it turns out the younger you are, it seems like it's better to freeze your eggs. So I researched egg freezing for, I want to say a year or two. I was wanting to freeze my eggs. I researched as much as I could research. I found as many videos as I could find. Excuse me, because I was very intrigued by this process. A little background about me is I have a bachelor's degree in management, and I'm also studying to become a doctor one day, hopefully an OBGYN. And that process takes a long time. I am single. I've been single for a while. And even if you're not single, you can still freeze your eggs, whatever you want to do. But in my case, I'm single. And I was like, I'm not sure when I want to have kids. I feel like you really can't plan when you have, like, you can try to plan it, but it's hard to plan when exactly you'll have a kid. Just like I feel like it's hard to kind of plan, okay, I'll be married by this time, especially as a single person. Because if you're not at that goal, then like let's say you say I want to be married at 26. If you're not married by 26, you're like, dang, I missed the goal. So I feel like things like marriage and children, you could kind of try to plan for, but as far as when it happens, it's pretty much in God's hands. So, it's just kind of preparing yourself for what could happen. So the reason why I wanted to do egg freezing was because I want to give myself options. I don't know if I'm gonna be married by 29. I don't know if I'll be married by 35. I would like to be married before, ideally, before I have my first kid. I would like to be married. And if I'm not married, there's still things like sperm donations and all that stuff. There's options. You don't have to put your life on pause because you're waiting for that special man to come, that special woman to come. You don't have to put your life on hold. At least that's my ideology. I'm like, if I want to have a kid by 35, I'm gonna have a kid by 35. And hopefully it's a smooth process. But like I said, you really can't plan, because you never know what could happen. And whether there's a man there or not, this is the goal I have for myself. I really don't believe putting your goals on hold, waiting for a man to come in all aspects. You know, if you want to buy that house, but back to egg freezing. So, one of the things I did was I searched for clinics. I looked at a couple in my area, but when you're doing egg freezing, you have to, I say pick somewhere close because when you're in the process, you're going every day. Like you're going every day. I was going in the morning. I believe you can maybe go in the afternoon, but I think they like you there in the morning. So I was going in the morning and I was going to rush. So, which wasn't that far for me. So I was like, okay, great. Like I can do this. I ultimately went with Kind Body. I liked their company's like mission and it felt like very empowering. So I went to Kind Body. The first doctor I had there, I actually did not go through with the steps. I believe I had to be like maybe 26 at the time. I did not feel comfortable with that doctor. Remember, you don't have to stay with a doctor. I was trying to ask her questions, and she was not really responsive in the way I would want her to be responsive, nor her team. So I said, okay, I'm gonna step away and come back. So I stepped away, I got more healthier, and then I decided to go with Dr. Jelani. Um, And that was a good experience. She was responsive to all my questions. My clinic gave me a number, so I was able to text her, and her team was pretty responsive. Overall, my time with Kind Body, I liked it. I felt like the staff was nice. The nurse I had that would do my ultrasounds and the lady that did my blood work, they was so sweet. They was so kind. And they really encouraged me during the process because towards the end, it did get hard. I only had like one good vein. So it was hard for her to stick it towards the end, and that was painful, but they was very nice with me. Um, they have, when you go into your ultrasounds, right? There's a probe that they use and they insert it into your vaginal area, and that's how they are able to see everything that they need to see. So I preferred them to do it a abdominal ultrasound, and they was able to do that for me. With me doing that, I always had to come in with a full bladder. And that was hard at times. I remember one time my bladder was so full, it literally hurt. But I had to drink the water and then they would do the ultrasound. They got all the pictures they needed. So just know if you're not comfortable with the probe, you can ask for a abdominal ultrasound. Um, and then what else? What else? So the medications, right? My insurance helped a lot with the medications. I paid $5,000 for the medications, but really that $5,000 was for one medication. Yes, it was for one medication. It was for the one where I used the pen and I gave myself the shot. That one was $5,000, and I believe my insurance covered the rest. As far as for the total cost of the treatments, like from me going in and having to pay through my portal, like to Kindbody specifically, that one I'm not too sure off the top of my head because it was a lot at once. You're basically stimulating like a pregnancy, even though you're not pregnant. So I would have like brain fog. I was tired all the time. I don't really think my mood changed, but I was tired all the time. I'll be talking and then forget what I was talking about. So I don't really have a total in that because I would pay like after my visits, like at the balance. And then also I would like to know is my parents funded my egg freezing. So my parents funded my egg freezing. They paid for medication. They paid for anything that the office asked for. And so I'm very grateful for that. And they're paying for storage right now until I get to a point in my medical journey where I can pay for the storage myself. So yes, my storage fee is $920 a year. Yep, $920 a year. I believe I have the sheet on the fridge. So that's pretty much like the cost breakdown, but every place is different. And for some places, you can do it for free if you freeze half your eggs and donate the other half. So that's something you could do too. I didn't want to do that option simply because just being fully transparent, like I said, this is a safe place. Egg freezing is just the first step. Once the eggs are frozen, they have to thaw once you're ready to use them. Not all eggs are going to survive the thaw. And then once you're ready to create embryos and stuff, you there's only a certain amount of embryos that may take, may not take, may be valuable, may not be valuable. I believe if I'm explaining it right. So basically you have to it's a numbers game. And I'm like, what if I freeze half of my eggs and donate half, but the half I have don't work? That's what I was thinking about. And that's just me being fully transparent. But there are people out here in the world that do need donor eggs. That do need donor eggs. So if that's something you're okay with and want to do, then by all means do it. Even if you don't want to freeze half your eggs, you could even go through the process and donate the eggs to um, a person, a family, and there's places that will pay you for donating your eggs. And it's no like little money. I've seen places pay like a lot of money. So that's something to think about too. Um, Going back to the medication, I was so nervous taking my first shot. One of the injections sting. I heard it sting. I was on TikTok and I really couldn't um I can't remember the name right now, but I remember a lady gave me a trick. Well, not gave me, I saw her TikTok video, and it said if you go slow, it doesn't sting as much. And once I saw that, it didn't sting as much. So be sure to look up your medications that your doctor gives you and ask your doctor any questions and stuff like that to see how best you can take it so it doesn't hurt. With Kindbody, each day I had a calendar and the calendar had a video. So with the video, I would be able to see how to take the medication, how to mix it, because like you're mixing stuff here, like you're putting this and this and shaking it up and then shooting you in the stomach. Well, not really shooting you, but you're putting it, like in your lower like belly area around the belly button. So like you're doing it, okay? Um Now, T, I heard that sometimes people pay nurses to come to their house and do the injections for them. If you're a nurse, I don't know, talk around, but that's easy money because I guess people will pay you to come and do the injections for them if they're too nervous. I was scared to do my first injections, but as I got used to it, it was just like clockwork, clockwork, do this, do that, do this, do that. I had to take some pills, but not a lot. So after a while, it got easier, and then I didn't get nervous again until my trigger shot, because that went more so like back here. But other than that, it just was like easy money, easy money. So let's go. I think that's pretty much a nice little summary. Actually, no. So retrieval day. When it was time, well, before I get to retrieval day, I want to back up a little bit. Make sure you have an updated pap smear because they're going to ask for that. They're going to ask for a pap smear. So make sure you get a pap smear from your OBGYN before. I didn't get a pap smear. I didn't get a pap smear from my OB that I wanted to. So I had to go to my fertility's doctor's person, her OB that does the pap smears. And it was okay, but me and that doctor, we didn't really mesh well. And I'm trying to think. I wasn't even able to get the pap smear done. That's how much we didn't mesh well at all. Um, so I end up having to go to I end up having to get it done like another way. But make sure you go to your person, you get your pap smear done, and it's someone that you mesh well. Me, I have to feel comfortable. I have to feel comfortable. So moving on from there. I go into my retrieval. Retrieval day was good, but I was a little surprised because Dr. Jelani did not do my retrieval. Dr. Riza, I think her name was Dr. Riz. She did my retrieval. And me, I do interviews. Well, not interviews. I read reviews and everything. And I picked Dr. Jelani because I figured she was the best. And I wanted her to do the retrieval. She couldn't do the retrieval. I voiced my concerns. I don't know why she couldn't do the retrieval. I don't know if it was something with kind body's policy, if they rotate doctors. I don't really know. So I voiced my concerns to her. She told me Dr. Rizza was a good doctor. And when I met Dr. Rizza, she was super sweet. The nurses there, the staff there, they was really nice. And I got on the table and they did my egg retrieval. Now, in layman's terms, because I don't have a picture, maybe I can try to pull one up in a video. During the egg retrieval, they're basically taking a probe, right? The same probe, basically, if you like we use during your ultrasounds. There's a needle at the end of this probe. So they're putting it here, and then they're kind of going to the to where the follicles are, and they're getting out the eggs. Okay. So they're getting out the eggs. I believe for me, they got a lot of eggs. I want to say they got 30 or close to 30 and about like 18, 18 matured enough to freeze. So they got a lot. They got a lot. And my doctor wanted to do another cycle. But here's the thing. I was doing fine. By the time day 3 hit, I was not feeling well. I could not walk from my room to the bathroom without getting out of breath. I ended up sleeping in my parents' bathroom so that I could be close to everything. I was wheezing a lot. I needed an inhaler. I ended up in the emergency room. And when I ended up in the emergency room, they basically were saying how my ovaries are enlarged. I had a Um, I had something called hyper ovarian stimulation syndrome, I think is what it is, OHSS. That's what I had. And I was told that I mainly got it because of how many eggs they got. And then also with me being like young, I was more prone to get it. I do not wish that on nobody. And it was crazy because I thought I researched everything about egg freezing. Every video I saw online, the person seemed great after. And here I am with this thing I never heard of. They said I have fluid buildup and it was just very uncomfortable. My doctor, she was so sweet, my emergency medicine doctor at Edwards. She um called Kind Body, called the physician on call. And it was a man. I don't know his name, but he was basically like, I can come in the next day and they'll drain the fluid out. But I want to talk to my fertility doctor first. And so she told me basically that we don't have to drain it, just make sure I keep on liquids, and then and then it'll go away. It felt like it was never going to go away. My stomach felt hard. I was uncomfortable. And the day she said it will go away, it went away and I started to feel better. But they was wanting me to do another cycle. And I said, I can't do another cycle. I don't want to feel like that again. They said the first time's always the hardest. You may feel better the second time. I was like, no, I'm okay. I have a lot of eggs, and these are just like my options. Egg freezing isn't guaranteed. And I'm like, if it's God's will, these eggs I got will work perfectly. And then if it's or I may get pregnant naturally because I can still get pregnant naturally, or I can use my eggs. Either way, it's gonna work out. Could I change my mind down the line and do another cycle? Sure. It's always that option. But other than that, that is my little summary of my egg freezing journey. If you have any questions, you want clarification on anything, let me know. I will let's see. I will go into the questions now. And then if there's still any other questions that you're not sure on, let me know and then we'll go from there. Thank you all for sending in your questions and thank you for still being here if you are. So, for question one, we have what is egg freezing and what actually happens in the body. Egg freezing, doctors call it isotype cryopreservation. Saves some of your eggs now so you can try to use them for a baby later. Normally, your body matures one egg a month. But with egg freezing, you take hormone medication that tells your ovaries to mature a whole batch at once. A doctor then collects those eggs and freezes them, basically hitting pause on them at your current age until you're ready. Walk me through a cycle from day one to retrieval. How long does it take? One full cycle usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks. You start daily hormone shots around the beginning of your period, and roughly 10 to 12 days, your ovaries mature a group of eggs. While the clinic tracks you with blood work and ultrasounds, when the eggs are ready, you take a final trigger shot. And the retrieval happens about 36 hours later. What do the injections do? And how many days am I doing them? The injections are hormones, mainly follicle stimulating hormone, that tell your ovaries to ripen many eggs in one cycle instead of just one. You give them to yourself at home, usually for about 10 to 12 days. They can cause temporary side effects like bloating, mild cramping, and mood changes that fade after the cycle. What is retrieval day like? Am I awake? Does it hurt? How fast do I recover? Retrieval day is a short outpatient procedure, usually 10 to 15, usually 15 to 30 minutes. You're not wide awake. You get light sedation and or anesthesia. So you're comfortable and won't feel it. And there are no cuts or stitches. The doctor uses ultrasound to guide a thin needle to collect the eggs, and most people rest that day and feel back to normal within a day or two. What's the difference between egg freezing? Oh, what's the difference between freezing eggs and freezing embryos? With egg freezing, you freeze your unfertilized eggs on your own. No sperm yet. So you keep your options open and don't have to choose a partner or donor now. With embryo freezing, the eggs are fertilized with sperm in the lab first, creating embryos that are then frozen. Embryos can give a little more certainty about what you have stored, but they require choosing a sperm source up front. Pausing on this real quick. One thing I would like to add is during this process, I had to create a will. So, since it's just me, no partner, I have to create a will. And I think either way you have to, but again, this is just me saying my experience as a single person. So, I had to create a will. And in that will, I had to say, if I died, what do I want to happen to my eggs? They give you a couple options. You can donate them so they could use them for science. You can do a lot of things. So in the will, I had to put in there what I wanted to happen and who I wanted to have control over them. So my father's attorney office drew that up for me and I signed the papers. They're great questions, you guys. Is there a best age to freeze? What changes decade by decade? Earlier is generally better because both the number and quality of your eggs decline with age. Experts say egg freezing works best in your 20s to early 30s when you tend to get more healthier eggs. Egg, qua- egg quantity drops faster between 35 and 40. And the odds each egg leads to a baby fall with age, which is why most specialists suggest freezing before about 38. Is younger always better? Why? Pretty much yes. Younger ovaries usually produce more eggs per cycle, and those eggs are more likely to be genetically normal, meaning a better shot at a healthy pregnancy later and often fewer cycles needed. Freezing at 27 essentially banks some of your most fertile, highest quality eggs, which is exactly the scenario doctors point to as ideal. Excuse me 1 second. Is it ever too late? What about 38 or 40? Is it ever too late? What about 38 or 40? Not necessarily too late, but it's a more honest conversation. After about 38, the eggs are fewer and the odds per egg are lower. So freezing could still be worth it, but may take more cycles and offers fewer guarantees. The most important step is seeing a fertility specialist for simple tests, blood work, and an ultrasound to see what your individual numbers look like before deciding. If I'm not sure I even want kids, does it still make sense to freeze now? It can. Egg freezing is essentially keeping the option open without committing to anything. Because the eggs are frozen, unfertilized, you don't need a partner or a firm decision about parenthood. You're just giving your future self more choices. Just go in clear eyed. It's not a guarantee, it has real cost and storage fees. And it doesn't and it shouldn't become a reason to delay trying if you decide to if you decide you want kids sooner. How likely is it that freeze how likely is it that frozen eggs lead to a baby later? Honestly, it depends a lot on two things. How old you were when you froze and how many eggs you baked. Younger eggs work better. Freezing before 35 with enough eggs gives a strong chance of at least one baby, while freezing after 40 lowers those odds considerably. And any single frozen egg has only roughly a 2 to 12% chance of becoming a baby on its own, which is extremely which is exactly why doctors freeze many at once. It improves the future odds, but it's not a guarantee. How many eggs should I aim to freeze and why that number? Because not every egg survives thawing, fer- fer- fertilizes, and becomes a healthy embryo. You want a cushion, not just one or two. A common rule of thumb is around 15 to 20 mature eggs. If you're under about 35 for a good shot at one baby. And more, quote often 25 to 30 plus. If you're in your late 30s to early 40s, because egg quality declines with age, your doctor estimates how many you'll likely get using simple ovarian reserve tests. Quote, an AMH blood test and an antral follicle count on ultrasound. Do frozen eggs survive being thawed? What percentage make it? Most do. With today's fast freezing method called vitrification, roughly 85 through 95% of frozen eggs survive the thaw, a big improvement over the older slow freezing method. So, if you froze 10 eggs, typically 8 or 9 make it through. Survival is just the first step, though. Those eggs will still need to fertilize and develop. Are babies born from frozen eggs just as healthy? Yes, the evidence is reassuring. Research hasn't found a higher risk of birth defects, low birth weight, preterm birth, or developmental problems in babies born from frozen eggs compared to those conceived naturally or with fresh eggs. Major fertility medicine groups consider these babies just as healthy, and egg freezing has been used for many years now. How many cycles do people end up needing? Many people, especially younger ones, get enough eggs in a single cycle, but plenty need two. The average retrieval yields about 9 to 10 eggs. So if your target is 15 through 20, you may do a second round. And that's more common the older you are. One analysis found nearly 9 in 10 women under 35 hit a solid success threshold in one cycle, versus only about a third of women aged 38 to 40. What does egg freezing really cost in all, including meds and storage? In the US, one egg freezing cycle typically runs about 12,000 to 20,000 in all. That includes monitoring and the retrieval. Often 10,000 to 11,000. The hormone medications, commonly 3,000 to 5,000. 3,000 to 6,000, sometimes more. And usually your first year of storage. Since many people do two cycles, a realistic budget is often closer to 20,000 to 35,000. And using the eggs later, thawing, fertilization, and transfer cost. More on top of that. Prices vary a lot by city and clinic, so always think in ranges. How long can eggs stay frozen? And what does the storage cost each year? Eggs can stay frozen for many years, even decades, with no known expiration date. As long as they're kept properly at very cold temperatures, the time in storage doesn't seem to hurt their quality. What matters most is how young you were when they were frozen, not how long they sit. Annual storage usually runs roughly 500 to 1,000 a year. And just for a pause, with Kindbody, I did not receive a free year of storage, and I pay 920 a year. Does insurance cover this cost? What about employer benefits? Sometimes, but it's inconsistent. Most regular insurance treats elective egg freezing as optional and doesn't cover it, though coverage is more likely if it's medical necessary. For example, before cancer treatment. And over 20 states have fertility preservation insurance laws. The bigger growth area is employer benefits. Many large companies now offer egg freezing or broader fertility benefits, often with a lifetime dollar cap. So it's always worth checking with your HR. So it's always worth checking your HR benefits. These are lovely questions. What happens to the eggs if I move, change clinics, or never use them? Your eggs are yours, and you decide what happens to them. It's laid out in a consent form you sign up front. If you move or switch clinics, frozen eggs can be safely shipped between facilities by specialized carriers. If you never use them, your options typically include keeping them in storage, donating them to another person or to research, or having them thawed and discarded. The key is keeping your contact info and storage fees current. Is egg freezing safe? What are the real risks? Egg freezing is considered safe and well established. It uses the same steps as IVF, which has been used worldwide for decades, and the American Society of Reproductive Medicine removed the experimental label back in 2012 through 2013. The real risks are usually mild and short-lived: bloating, cramping, and soreness from the injections, and rarely a condition called OHSS, which is what I had, or a small risk from the retrieval. It's not risk-free, but serious complications are uncommon. What's OHSS and how common is it? OHSS stands for ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. When your ovaries overreact to the medication, swell and leak fluid, causing bloating, belly pain, and nausea. Most cases are mild and pass within a week or two. With today's protocols, OHSS overly happens in fewer than 5% of cycles, and the severe form that can require hospitalization occurs in less than 1%. Does freezing eggs now lower my own fertility or use up my future eggs? No, this is the big myth to bust. Every month, your body recruits. No, and this is the big myth to bust. Every month, your body recruits a whole group of eggs, but normally only one mature egg and ovulates while the rest are simply lost. Egg freezing medication just rescues that month's extra eggs your body was going to discard anyway. It doesn't dip into your future supply, so it won't lower your ovarian reserve or hurt your chances of getting pregnant naturally later. What are the side effects during the cycle and how long do they last? The most common side effects are bloating, mild discomfort, breast tenderness, mood swings, and soreness or bruising where you give the injections. Bloating tends to peak toward the end of your roughly 2 weeks of shots and around retrieval. The good news is it's temporary. Most people feel back to normal within a week of retrieval, usually by the time their next period arrives. Can I work out, travel, or drink during the process? Light movement like walking is fine, but skip intense workouts, running, and heavy lifting in the days around retrieval. The stimulation makes your ovaries enlarge and heavier, and vigorous twisting can rarely cause them to twist. Quote, ovarian torsion, which is serious. Most clinics say wait until after your next period for hard exercise. Travel is usually okay as long as you can make your monitoring appointments. And alcohol is generally fine in moderation, but best minimized in the days right before retrieval. Always follow your own clinic's instructions. So when I was going through the process, I opted not to drink. um, while I was taking the medication and stuff. That was my personal choice. All right, we are on question 24. Stay with me, y'all. How do you prepare emotionally, not just physically? Egg freezing isn't just physical. The hormones, the waiting, and the uncertainty can be an emotional roller coaster, and that's completely normal. A great step is to line up support ahead of time. Many clinics offer or can refer you to a fertility counselor, a licensed mental health professional who specializes in this journey. ASRM keeps standards for those counselors, and you can find one through reproductivefacts.org. Find a healthcare professional tool. Leaning on friends, a partner, or support groups helps too. I was in a Facebook support group. I'm still in it. And I met this lovely lady named Courtney. She stays in my area. We met, we talked. It's good when you can find someone to talk to about the process that's going through it as well. So I encourage wherever area you are, look for like Facebook groups. Even if you don't say anything, it's just nice to know that you're not alone in this. What do you tell a partner, or do you do this on your own? Plenty of people freeze their eggs entirely on their own. In fact, research shows the most common reason women freeze isn't career, it's not having a partner yet, with some studies finding 80% plus were single at the time. So there's no right way. If you do have a partner, it can help to frame it as expanding your options and the decision you're making for yourself. And they can be wonderful support during the injections and on retrieval day. How did freezing change how you think about your timeline? So, freezing my eggs for me, it I don't know if it really changed how I thought about my timeline. Well, no, I take that back. I never really sat down and thought when exactly I wanted kids until I froze my eggs. At first, I was like, it'll happen when it happens, but I know at Kind Body they asked me like, when do I think I may want to have kids? And that is when I sat down and thought about the timeline and to a school, when would I want to at least to see, try for a baby? Like, when do I want to try? And that is pretty much when I thought about my timeline, but like, it was more so, how do I fit this in? When do I think will be a good time? What things do I like to have in place? Because I know I would like to have things in place before I have a kid. Like, it's just certain things that have to be in place financially and just things I would need for support. So I think it changed it in a way to I thought when would be a great time. And then for me, that time is like 34, 35. What's the most common thing people regret? Doing it or waiting? Here's the surprising part. The regret almost always runs the other way. In one perspective study, only about 9% of women who froze their eggs had moderate to severe regret, versus 51% among women who considered it but decided not to, and nearly half, 46% of those who froze wished they'd done it sooner. The other common regret is freezing too few eggs. So the takeaway usually isn't, I wish I hadn't. It's, I wish I started earlier. After you freeze, what's next? Say I'm ready to use them in a few years. What does that protocol look like? When you're ready, the lab thaws your frozen eggs because freezing slightly hardens the egg's shell. They usually fertilize each one using ICSI, where an embryologist injects a single sperm directly into the egg. The fertilized eggs grow into embryos over about 5 to 6 days. Then one healthy embryo is transferred into your uterus in a quick procedure. After a couple of weeks of medication to prep the uterine lining, then you wait for the pregnancy test. Do I have to use them at this clinic or can they move with me? Your eggs are yours and they can absolutely be moved if you relocate, switch clinics, or find better long term storage. Frozen eggs can be safely shipped using specialized cryogenic carriers that keeps them frozen with temperature and GPS tracking the whole way. You'll sign you'll sign some release paperwork and settle any storage balance. And the transfer usually takes a few days. There's typically a shipping cost, often roughly 1,000 to 3,000. Something I like to add is I also researched what type of storage that the clinic will be using. I want to make sure it was the best storage possible. So I know with my clinic, they use Tomorrow Tank. And I really like Tomorrow's Tank concept and how they store the eggs very um is very good in my opinion. So basically when the eggs are in Tomorrow Tank, they're always frozen. It's never the clinic having to go to like a tank where the other sperms are lifted up and look for your name and then put it down, which can throw off the temperature. Tomorrow tank, your eggs are in like where they're gonna be, in their beacon. So I love that about Tomorrow Tank, and I'm glad that Kind Body uses them. And I think a lot of clinics use them now. What's the honest difference between egg freezing and a guaranteed baby? The honest truth. Frozen eggs are insurance, not a guarantee. Even ASRM is clear that egg freezing can't promise a future baby. At every step, there's natural drop off. Not every egg survives thawing. Not everyone fertilizes. And not every embryo leads to a healthy pregnancy. That's exactly why doctors talk about freezing a number of eggs to reach a target chance, and why freezing younger and freezing enough eggs matters so much. Think of it as giving your future self more and better options, not a sure thing. Can you choose the baby sex? What are the chances of having a girl? Naturally, it's about a 50-50 shot. The only way to actually choose later during IVF after your eggs are thawed and fertilized. The embryos can be genetically tested, PGT, which also reveals each embryo's sex. So, an embryo of a particular sex can be transferred. In the US, this is legal, and some clinics offer it, often called family balancing, but it's ethically debated. ASRM does not encourage selective, non medical sex selection, and it's banned in many other countries. It also only works if you have healthy embryos of the sex you're hoping for. How does egg freezing affect my hormones after? Do they go back to normal? During the cycle, the medication raises your hormone levels on purpose, which is what causes the temporary bloating and mood swings. Afterward, your hormones return to their normal baseline, usually by the time your next period arrives. About 1 to 2 weeks after retrieval, egg freezing doesn't cause lasting hormone changes or throw your cycle off long term. If I do this, will I go into menopause faster? No, this is a normal, common. This is, okay. If I do this, will I go into menopause faster? No, this is a really common worry. But freezing your eggs doesn't bring on menopause sooner. Every month, your body naturally recruits a group of eggs and loses all but one. The medication simply rescues that month's extra eggs that were going to be discarded anyway. It doesn't dip into your long term reserve, so it won't push menopause earlier. What if I'm close to menopause? Can I still freeze my eggs afterward? Yes, the beauty of freezing. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I read that question. What if I'm close to menopause? Can I still use my eggs afterwards? Yes, the beauty of freezing is that your eggs are paused at the age you freeze them, so they don't age while you do. Even if you're approaching menopause or have already been through it, you can still use your frozen eggs later because you don't need to be ovulating to carry a pregnancy. The eggs are thawed, fertilized, and an embryo is transferred while medication preps your uterus, as long as you're medically cleared and have a healthy uterus. Is it painful? For most people, it's more uncomfortable than painful. The injections use tiny needles that can sting or leave a small bruise. And as your ovaries fill up, you may feel bloated and crampy. The retrieval itself is done under light sedation, so you're asleep or very relaxed and don't feel it. Afterward, expect mild cramping or soreness for a day or two. Most people manage with rest and over the counter pain relief. Do my eggs deteriorate over time? If so, how long do I have? Two different things here. The eggs still inside your body gradually decline in number and quality as you age. Slowly through your 20s, faster after about 35, and especially after 37. So, sooner is better for freezing, but once eggs are frozen, they're essentially paused and don't deteriorate in storage, even over many years. So, how long do I have? Really comes down to your age now, not the shelf life on the frozen eggs. What percentage of e- what percentage of my eggs fertilize successfully? Once your eggs are thawed and fertilized, using usually with ICSI where a single sperm is injected into each egg. A good lab fertilizes roughly 70 to 80% of mature eggs. Keep in mind, not every retrieved egg is mature, and fertilization is roughly one step. Some fertilized eggs won't go on to become healthy embryos that naturally drop off at each stage is exactly why freezing more eggs up front matters. Yeah, that natural drop off at each stage is exactly why freezing more eggs up front matters. How time consuming is the whole process day to day? The active part is short, about 2 to 3 weeks from your first injection to retrieval. Day to day, that means giving yourself shots at home, a few minutes each, for roughly 10 to 12 days, plus around 4 to 6 quick monitoring visits for blood work and an ultrasound. Often early morning. Retrieval day takes a few hours with recovery, and most people are back to normal within a day or two. So it's a busy couple of weeks rather than a month-long commitment. These were amazing questions. If you have more questions, please be sure to drop them in the comment box below. And don't worry, I'm going to put this PDF in the description with the resources and references that I use to gather this information so you all can have this for your own personal. I would like to thank you all for watching this video. Again, it's important that we talk about fertility, whether we know we want kids or not sure if we want kids. It's a good conversation to have. Um, it's good to know our options. And this is a safe space for anyone with questions to drop them down below. I'm still learning, so let's learn together, you know, and be here for one another. I would like to thank you all for watching. I'm open to any suggestions. I'm currently looking for a new fertility doctor, someone that's open to doing sit downs and interviews and just having open discussions about all things fertility, IVF, embryos, eggs, you know, and this doesn't even have to be narrowed down to just women. There's men that freeze their sperm. Who knew? I didn't know. So let's talk. Let's have a great time. Um, so yes, thank you all for watching. This is my channel, Simply Santalia, and this is just the beginning. So have a great day. Oh, and today's my birthday.